Now, can you come and sit over here so I can? I like to see you. That's good. That's more like it. Seems like like a bunch of old missing teeth. So it looks like him. Well, we should have enough people here for intelligent conversation. Now, you got to talk a little bit more. Yeah, please. See, because you walk around like you've got constipation. You see, you're never gonna, if you don't mind me saying, I know you like what I'm saying, and it touches certain sensitive spots in you, and you get it. But then there's certain private things that I'm not privy to, certain little incidents in your life, that if I could know them, I could show you how you're entangled. Because you could see that there's a resentment in everything. Resentment is the establishing emotion. No, it's not necessarily, but resentment is the most important cog in the vicious cycle of love-hate. Because everybody has loves, needs, and there's a certain kind of need that's natural. You need food, okay? You need to be amongst your peers and friends. But then, you need to enjoy knowledge and philosophy. But then those same needs get perverted, and then you become addicted to the source of that need, who fulfills you imperfectly. And the tangle, there's a love-hate thing that goes on, because when you become entangled with someone, and it's not God, but it's a God substitute, which is just feet of clay, see? When you become involved with philosophies and ideas and psychologies, which I think are true, and you act out that which you think is true, or is imperfectly true, or perfectly true, but it's mechanical. And you think you're doing the right thing, and you are, but it's not for the right reasons. You see the combinations of problems that you might have? That's just the tip of the iceberg, but there's billions of them. And if I could know, what your beliefs are, just like, what you believe and what you act out, and so that you make the same mistake over again, over and over, thinking you're going to come to a better conclusion, an outcome, and then you get frustrated because it doesn't work, but you think you're not trying hard enough, like love, like the battered woman. She keeps trying to please the guy, and then damned if she pleases him and damned if she doesn't. After a while, nothing she does pleases him. But she thinks, because of her anger, she thinks it's her fault. She isn't loved enough. She doesn't understand what love is. She doesn't understand she's a slave of her own hate reactions, her resentments, which produce a perversion of attachment to the hate object, trying to please it to avoid being angry and upset. See? Who understands that little? You understand all that? Anybody else? Isn't it simple? Now, you see why I say to you, if you could just tell me, disagree with some of my statements, then I can hear in the disagreement where you're wrong. See? So argue with me.
Well, I mean, I do see that I'm repressed, but I am more outspoken than I have been.
You are?
Yes.
But not here.
That's true, but I mean, often when you're talking, it seems like an interruption to.
No. Interrupt me. There are times when I say, do you mind if I just hold the question, because I'm on a roll, right? And if you agree, but if you say, look, it's urgent, I'll stop. and do my best to pick up, because I'm here for you. I'm here to see to you that you walk out here cleaned up in your head. Inside there is a very complicated process going on. It's complicated because you keep making the same mistake and not recognizing what the error is, because you've believed it. And it's very hard to believe that what you believe isn't right. That's why Adolf Hitler and people like who can control others, they are programmed to believe, we won't go into how they get there, but they're programmed to believe a certain thing, that first of all, Hitler is the savior. They've got their own God. And there are a lot of people, well, just take it back right to this country where you have movie stars and fans, which is a abbreviation, fanatics, who idolize, who's that guy that sang songs and wiggled his...
Elvis.
Elvis is pelvis. Yes. And so they still worship him today. They visited his shrine. And all he did was a little Tommy Tucker singing for his supper. But yet, because of the power he had to make people feel alive, what does a God do? He has the power to make you alive. Well, he had the power to make you feel alive, but you weren't. And while he was making you, he's an innocent kid. This man actually basically committed suicide by overdose of drugs. But there was a wrong relationship. Here's an innocent guy who has singing talent with nice personality, decent. They take him and they glorify him, and he doesn't know how to deal with the power. And he falls, so he becomes powerful. All the girls love him. And so what does he keep doing? He keeps on shaking his torso, wiggling it, and doing little sexual innuendos. And the girls scream, and I guess they all got paid to do that for the effect, for the cameras. And they went into some hysteria, and before you know it, he was making trillions of dollars or millions of dollars. And he could have anything he wanted, and no one would correct him. Everybody loved him and glorified him, and therefore empowered his ego to fall. And that, you see, there are two ways you fall. In a sense, the bully, or the person you put on a pedestal, who you make a god. And I'm going to tell you about the way you are a god. You can become a brutal god, or you can become a limp-wristed god that everybody sucks on. They want a little piece of you. They expect you to do a song and dance. They don't feel inferior to this god. The audience with Elvis Presley did not feel inferior to this god. This god did a dance. He wiggled his torso. He animated himself to the point where, because people have no life of their own, if they see some animated motion, they feel the animations in themselves, from which they release energy to excite, empower the animations of the animator. So that actually they were sucking off of him. They were taking his life away. Millions of people were draining him. And his whole existence was just to please the crowd. Now, a more sophisticated psychopath who could exploit that, he wouldn't be a victim. He would actually encourage people. See, this man wasn't a person who loved what he did. He actually was in conflict with the role he was placed in. And therefore, he really was, just like men, I'm jumping a little bit, just like men call upon women to serve their sense of worth, and they draw out of the woman the worst in them to serve the worst in them. That's what the crowd was doing to Elvis. They were paying him to be a beast, a servant of their beast, to nurture their beast, to nurture their perverse ways of life. All those people that enjoyed his singing weren't normal people. They weren't people me. I'm normal. Some people think I'm weird, but that's all right. I live a good, clean life. And I practice what I preach. And I'm perfectly happy. You see, I don't have those excesses of habits. None. And that's what happiness is. Who striveth for the mastery is temperate in all his ways. Happiness, no excesses. I have nobody as God. Nobody's my God. I don't put people on pedestals. I don't let people put me on a pedestal unless you do it secretly and that you've got a problem all by yourself. So I'm not playing. And so, but there are those who understand how to exploit the psychopaths, the sociopaths, who know how to know that you've become dependent upon their approval. They know it. They know that they've placed themselves in a position knowing that people want a God, an external God, to justify them, so they can do what they want. They are sort of liberated from their conscience. They make me or whoever it is their conscience. And so this conscience can tell them what to do. And if their conscience is right, they glorify him even more. And they're free to do more wrongs, but then this man or woman will help them feel right about the wrong, and they get wronger and wronger and wronger, and their hates become more hateful. But they always go back to the person who will understand them and feel their pain. Clinton was a sociopath. Clinton is a sociopath. Sociopath is different from a psychopath in that he'd actually play the role of God for everybody and love you. And keep on loving you, loving all of you, and doing very perverse things, but you'll all excuse him because your God maker's greater than the God you've created in your own mind. But he's the greater God because he's got your power. Because you're giving him the power to help you feel okay about being a nothing human being, to do all your perverted little things in secret and in open, even to kill and murder. That's the later stages, see? And so he's a nice guy, but he loves everybody. He loves you and therefore pardons you. He doesn't save you from what you are. He encourages you to be what you are. You get worse, but you feel more pain. But the greater the pain, the more you give power to your sociopath or psychopath like Hitler and Saddam Hussein and people like that, Stalin. You give them the power to justify you. Of course, you have a ring of people who are in different stages of becoming like this sociopath wannabes. Hopefully, that when he dies, they will replace him, and you'll be the heir apparent. So you're just going to be one of those psychopaths in the making with a whole ring of people around you, and that becomes dictatorship. But you have many dictatorships, like Minister Farrakhan, sociopath. So he's a sociopath, actually, very close to a psychopath. Now,
what about Hillary?
Oh, Hillary, I just don't want to talk about her. She's a nothing path. Absolutely nothing. There's no personality. There's nothing there. It's just that she's married to. She supported the creep she was living with, and so and allowed him to do whatever he wanted, I guess. And she stayed with him for the power she thinks she's going to get, but she's really not a nothing person. But I wouldn't want to see her as a president of the United States because she's like clueless, literally clueless. So where was I? Coming back to Elvis and coming back to you, because you could be, you could play one of those roles and not know it. As a matter of fact, you're either a bully or you're meaning you're getting away with degrading people. That's the psychopathic role. The bully plays the psychopathic role even though he's a psychotic. When I mean psychotic means you're very suggestible. A psychotic is not an original copy. A psychopath is one who's born that way. Just like Jesus was born that way, the psychopaths are born that way. They just take pleasure in the whole process. Yes.
I'm just curious, aren't a lot of psychopaths probably victims acting out some kind of
I
condition?
just said that.
Oh.
You weren't listening. I said acting. See, acting, they're playing the role. They're not original copies. But the ones that are corrupted by him mirror his behaviors. And they are potentially savable, although it's not likely. Because by pleasing him, by pleasing the psychopath or the sociopath, his pleasure reinforces the nature, that same nature. So there's an exchange going on, and you see how this applies to all of you in a minute. I'm not just talking about politics now, because you're part of the politic, the body politic. Because if it wasn't for the masses, you wouldn't have an Elvis Presley. If it wasn't for the masses, you wouldn't have an Adolf Hitler. He derives his power from all of you in a chain of command, where his nature goes down, his nature from his victim, his nature goes into the victim gives up the power to have that nature reinforced. You see how that is? So if I bully you or please you, I tell you how wonderful you are. And you will thank you, I've got control. That's praise. You have to avoid that like the plague. You mustn't fall for praise, because that's your ego taking strength from a bigger ego who you just gave power. And so after a while, you like the feeling of denial. In other words, we all suffer anxiety, a sense of no purpose, loneliness, anxieties, fears. But if we have someone who loves us, who tells us we are wonderful, and that we're okay the way we are, and that God loves you as you are, you feel a sense, when you buy that lie, you fall to truth. You fall to the liar, the spirit of it. Because when a lie comes, there's a spirit behind it. That lampshade can't make up a lie. And the equivalent in nature is camouflage. It looks like a rock, and all of a sudden you walk past, it eats you. Something like that, you see.
Fish like that.
Yeah, there's lots of examples like that. And so when you fall for that lie, that praise, it's reaching to, it's sensing something in you and appealing to it. And it knows what it's doing. But you don't understand it. Your problem is you don't want to understand that you are less than you think you are. You want to be more. That's ego. But the illusion of being more needs a God. A God that seems like it's serving you, because you're the God maker. So if you make a God of clay, if you elect that you will look for that person outside who would be a suitable candidate, and you elect them. That's the excitement of electing a president. We made him what he is. Hey, you go wild, you see. He will now see to it that we have all our selfish appetites. Everybody got their own, haven't they? All divided. All you should really need is a president who loves what's right and will do it and honest. And we see that. We walk away satisfied. Everything will be taken care of, and none of our own selfish needs will be gratified. You see? Yes.
Hi, Laurie. I'm glad to be here. I drove up Friday from San Francisco, and Driving up here took about 6 hours.
Yes.
And I was really glad to come up here because I've talked to you on the radio a couple times. I've called you. But I'll tell you, yesterday there was a part of me that really wanted to leave.
You mean run away?
Yeah.
As you get closer to the ranch, you.
Pretty much. Then I got here, it's like the light is everywhere. I'm like, it's just like
A lot of people come thousands of miles and they come to the front door and they just
Yeah.
turn and run.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I'm at a point. I've been meditating for about a year, and I've learned not to shut up, not to let it have that voice, to say it out loud, to hopefully not give it power. And there's a place where I'm at, and it's like I'm stuck. It's like I start to.
Where are you stuck?
Well, all this stuff is coming up again.
Stuff? What stuff?
Incest. I was molested by my uncle, and trying not to give my mom power over me. I'm becoming independent a little bit from her, and the more I start to break away, the more she tries to keep me under.
Of course, she's addicted to your power. Your mom. Look, this really dovetails into what I'm talking about. Was this question triggered by my conversation?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Brought it up.
Well, it's really, I like you interrupting my line of thought. It's fine, because I can come back to it in just a minute. But you'll see how that ties in beautifully. Because you see, when you're a victim, now remember I used the word victim? There's two types of psychotic playing the roles of sociopath and psychopath. Bullies, in other words. There's a sweet, nice bully, the passive-aggressive type. It always shows a nice face, but you've got to be very careful to keep them happy, otherwise they start to grimace with teeth. Behind that nice face, there's something cruel. There's something cruel, and you don't want to see that. So you cater to it. You don't want to hurt their feelings. So is that the way you feel towards your mom? You don't want to hurt her feelings?
Rock the boat.
You don't want to rock the boat because she's going to come at you.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
and I want to do the right thing. I don't want to be disrespectful.
But is she basically?
She's been the Italian mother who stayed home and took care of her kids.
Yeah, but she holds that over you.
Yeah.
She won't free you.
Yeah.
She's a tyrant.
Yeah.
But she's a sweet tyrant.
She's a sweet tyrant.
Yeah, just like when you get around Clinton. He's such a nice fellow, you just want to give yourself to him. You get away from him, you get to see him.
And then she tries to make it seem like there's something wrong with me for
seeing something wrong with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand all that. Now, do you see, I was just describing you. I was wondering why. I know you're sitting there thinking, when I'm going to get to your problem. But when can you interrupt? But I was talking about you all the time.
Right.
You see? So can we go back then to the whole idea of psychopathy and sociopathy and clones? The clone psychopath, which is a bully. But he's not born that way. If it was your father, he had a father maybe that bullied him and he became like his dad. Or he became like his bully mommy or something. But you would take on the identity of what puts you on a pedestal, or you put on a pedestal. You put someone on a pedestal, and let's say you've come from a bullying existence, which you have in a manner of speaking. You've been degraded, and as you've been degraded, you have a lot of anger. And since you are basically a decent human being, you were when you were a little child. You were destined for better things. And that's why those people are offended by your very existence. Those kinds of people are offended even when you're a baby. They know it. They're like vampires. They can sense it. And it's anything that's a threat to their power structure, their psychopathic existence, that you will not serve it. That you will become a mini Jesus and topple their kingdom, like the male lion who immediately kills the baby male lions when they're born, so it doesn't threaten his kingdom. Immediately kills if it's a male, they'll go and kill it right away. just for being born a male animal, because it knows it will grow to challenge it one day. And so when you come from what we call a dysfunctional family, so when you come from a dysfunctional family, and the dysfunctional family is not unusual. You see dysfunctional families on the Super Nanny. Now, those families are not really what you call dysfunctional, but they're not evil. They're somewhat dysfunctional, means something isn't working right and they're not very happy about it. You would be, if, you're not married, are you?
No.
So I guess you're afraid of being married, aren't you?
I just don't want to be married.
You don't want to produce, you don't know how, you're afraid to be.
Well, I have a 9-year-old daughter. I'm a single mom, and I just don't think it's wise right now.
No. But the point is but you had a child out of wedlock.
I had a child out of artificial insemination.
Because why did you do that from you?
Because unfortunately back then I was living the gay lifestyle, which I'm not anymore.
Oh, I see. Okay, so we got all that as a background. So it's fine.
Yeah.
We've got no judgment from me.
No.
I understand.
I don't live that way anymore.
All I care is that you get it off your chest. And it's no big deal now because that's the past.
Right.
I look at you with present eyes. I don't look at you. What you say, I don't see. You're done with it. I'm done with it. We go on from here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I get to understand it. But you were afraid of a family. You were afraid of the ordinary family. You wanted a child though,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't know how to deal with men.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets complicated here. But you had your own reasons. What was the reasons?
I wanted a child?
Oh yeah. What was your private reason? What was your justification to do that?
I knew I wanted a child. I mean, I can't describe it, but
Why did you want a child when you didn't have a husband, someone to take care of that child?
I just wanted.
You wanted fulfillment?
No, it wasn't fulfillment because it's not.
There's a reason. There's a reason in that altered state of consciousness, being a lesbian at that time. There's an altered state of consciousness. The reason for wanting a child could not be good. What reason did you give yourself? You can't just say, I just wanted one, because then it's selfish. Is that right? You wanted a child so you could love it?
Well, I wanted a child to raise.
What for? But why would you want to raise a child? You see, we're getting close to something that's going to be very painful for you to face. Let's play with this idea, shall we? A little bit longer. What was you're a sentient being. You have reason, albeit not always good reasons. But those reasons we need to look at, because it's good to have a child. It's not good to have a child because to fill your loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good to have a child so you can put your nature in them.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
that
definitely don't want to do that. I mean,
well, yeah, but you that's what you do. That's I want to, in a manner of speaking, make sure. Now I spoke earlier about the right way and the wrong way of loving and enjoying everything, and then there's a perverse way. I would like my nature in my children. I would like to pass on what's in me to you. I would like you to have what I have. I don't want to put my nature in you so I can live through you like a god. So that, because that's how the average person thinks. Homosexuals, they are barren, basically. Man and man and woman are barren. There's no way they can replicate. They replicate by molesting little kids. That's how they replicate themselves. Or they perpetuate themselves one to another. Because then there's always a bully homosexual, and then there's the victim homosexual. There's always those roles being played. So one is living through the other. Now we come back to the principle of what we see going on in dictatorships and in relationships. One yields themselves. No, this is not the chain of command. This is just one single cell, two people, one person in marriage or relationship, or whether it's not a relationship at all, it's bully on the parade ground, on the playground, I should say. And one yields himself or herself to the strongest force for peace. It doesn't mean to say, it doesn't matter whether it's your mother or father. It doesn't matter. It's the principle. It is everywhere. The person who yields comes from a very weak home. The person who yields has got a bully for a parent and is trying to get away from this horrible circumstances. So it happens two ways. So he finds someone who loves them the way he is. And guess what? The lover, the person who loves you in your emptiness, coming around to you in just a minute. I'm going to make a long trip and cover every ground. The person who recognizes your need for love senses your weakness. He sniffs it out. It's almost like your weakness cries out for love or salvation. It cries out, says, love me. Help me. I'm lonely. I'm helpless. Please help me be strong. Believe in myself. What self? It's a broken person here. It's a broken woman. And it cries out, in this case, to a guy who rises the occasion of that need, and she gives him herself too easily to this man. He's basically a bully. His sense of worth comes from her putting him on a pedestal and then enslaving herself to him. She doesn't know she's doing it. She thinks she's loving him and empowering him to be a good person or God person who loves her. Empower up someone with your energy and life force. You give your life force to a person to be good. She thinks that by surrendering this easily and giving him this gift of love as easily as God would give it to you, if you'd want it, that her love will make him good, unlike her father, who she wasn't good enough. But she doesn't understand she doesn't understand the dynamic. What she's now involved with. She has been programmed to be a slave of love, trying to look for love everywhere. And the first pair of pants comes along that senses the signal. It's an outcry, a cry outwardly, rises to the occasion of the need, and gratifies himself with her as if that was love, and fulfills her with excitement, because sex feels good, especially when there's an emptiness and the feeling takes the place of reality. She's running away from reality in that moment. She's into that person. That person is into her. Now, she's more of a slave. And he's hungrier because he's a feeder. He's feeding on her failing. And he comes at her again. The more he gets, the more he wants, because he's addicted to life force. That is the nature of a tyrant. Where Hitler is not satisfied with the whole nation's life force. And that whole nation has to forage other nations and pass it up the chain to him. So he's bloated with a sense of worth, with power. It goes to his head, he gets giddy. Usually those countries are not run with any real intelligence or intuition, but by pure evil. Everyone is caught up in this hysteria, glorifying. But the whole system is made up of layers and layers of bullies, creating cowards, strong before the weak, cowards becoming bullies, strong before the weak, weak before the strong, strong before the weak, all the way up to the top until the bottom rung. They're the soldiers, the soldier ants. And there's not enough, and there's an addiction to power all the way, because if I give up my power to you and someone stands behind me and I have to go around and turn around and give my power up to him because I'm his clone, so whatever I get, I have to pass up. Whatever he gets, he has to pass up. It goes up all the chain, so nobody can say no to Adolf Hitler. Nobody. We're all conditioned to one God, one man. That's how it works. But in our private life, if you look at America, those are called dysfunctional families. The whole system is made up of dysfunctional families, bullies and cowards. You can't be free from your mother or your father. You can't be free. She can't be free from hers. And there are people over her, the school teachers, the minister, I don't care who it is. It's a whole system of things, with nobody showing any humanity. Loving and being loved, actually screwing and being outscrewed, hating and being hated. Jesus says to love those who love you. He puts it in simple terms. What profit you? Do not thieves and robbers love thieves and robbers? They're a system. They have the chief cook and bottle washer, the gang leader. They'll do anything for the gang leader. What you have to do is murder and rob, and then you get respect. You get position in the system, in the gang. Yeah, this is a spiritual warfare we're fighting here. You're not dealing just with emotional problems. Your emotions, when you give your emotions, your emotional self, when you let people tap your emotion by seducing your pride. See, when your pride is being seduced, and when your pride is seduced, the first in the story of Paradise Lost, the serpent speaks to Eve, and she's vulnerable. She needs the protection of Adam. That was his job. He's the one that gets it. He was the general. He compromised himself, but he compromises himself. He likes the idea of thinking he can be God. He's not satisfied with being made in God's image and being the Son of God. And this is a very important principle, because you've all inherit this through your parents, through your children, through your mothers. Because Eve never was corrected. She gave the forbidden fruit to Adam, who fell for it. Instead of correcting her, he joined her. And that was an appeal, because it was a verbal interchange. She says, and she was convinced by whoever it was, let's call it the serpent, but you won't die. God doth not tell the truth. You won't die, you'll become a god. Now God was very careful, more careful than Clinton with his is. He says you will become as one. He didn't say you'll become one. Little word as. You'll think yourself. He falls. But that separation, that fall, is betrayal. I mean, if you're married to somebody and you haul off with somebody else and leave your husband and children, that's betrayal, isn't it? Mm-hmm. If you have a relationship with someone secretly, and then you go home, there's something wrong. There's a bond broken, isn't there? A fidelity. That bond is very important. As far as your relationship with God is concerned, it is absolutely eternal life bond. You die, but you don't die right away. You live long enough to produce. You live long enough to repent. See? Because human beings are unlike angels, they have a body which catches the fall. Angels fall right into hell, and that's where they rise into you. That's where they come. All your little secret doubts and all your little imaginations and the strange whisperings in your mind that make you fear and doubt and never do your best and hold you back and will make you do your worst to destroy others, to do unto others what was done unto you. That is a spiritual force. It's not only a conditioning, because when you respond, when your ego responds, when Adam's ego responded to the lie, several things happen. Several things happen. He gets separated from eternal life. He becomes a mortal being. He goes through a transition. 40 days and 40 nights, according to old scriptures. And that's why the number of days, 40 days and 40 nights, are repeated. 40 is a very important number in the Bible. And you wonder why, but that's what, according to older scriptures, 40 days and 40 nights it took for him to adapt to earth food and everything else. And
Is that the connection with the 40-day flood?
I know, yeah, well, let's not go into it, because I'm just saying that in passing, and I don't want to get distracted from the point. You be careful. I just said generally. And well, let me finish the thought here. So it is the lie that separates, but then when you're separated from the life of God, or you're separated from love, and there's an emptiness, and you lose the part of you that triggers emotions. Because when you love what's right, you're in control of your emotions, because something is in control of you. It's sir, yes sir, and therefore your emotions are under your control. You naturally do what's right. You don't waste your emotions. You don't use your emotions to entertain you. You don't use your emotions to puff up with pride and judgment. You don't use the other emotion, when you feel the pain of pride and judgment, to escape the pain of pride of judgment, into the pleasure of being a king, being entertained by dancing girls, or creating gods to love you and giving them the power to make you feel good about yourself, or giving it to the local dope pusher or entertainer who can animate you by their gyrations in their music and awaken your emotions and make you clap and dance and sing and to lull you into to give you such a high, it lulls you into forgetfulness of everything that's wrong with you while you're getting worse. You understand that so far? So you have a habit. Now I'll come back to you. You have the habit of giving your emotions to your mother to control. See, because you're a slave of your mother.
Yeah, but I want to be free.
I know you do. I know that. I know what you want to be. But then, we need to know how that's going to be done.
Yeah, I do.
You see, but you have to understand that you have a love-hate relationship with your mother. You give her power two ways, and you make her a god two ways, and she's addicted to your life force.
Well, I don't want to make her feel unappreciated.
You do want to make her feel unappreciated. You see, it's wrong. Now, I'm glad you said that. You absolutely want to make her feel absolutely unappreciated. Because when you make her feel appreciated, you're giving her the power to do you in. Now, you don't want to hurt her feelings, right?
That's right.
That's a nice way of, another way of saying it. When you don't want to hurt her feelings, then you have to give yourself to her and please her so as not to hurt her feelings. But guess whose feelings are really being hurt? It's selfish. See, the same way as you're having your children, why you wanted a kid. You are not concerned about your mother's feelings. You hate her. You're not concerned about her feelings. You're concerned about the fact that she's the ground of your being. She's the God that she's appointed herself over you to be because you're a little baby. So you couldn't help falling into her trap. You were born bonded to her, and you never had a father that could save you from that because he wasn't saved himself from her. Am I right or wrong? He wasn't saved from her.
Right.
Okay. So men, like Adam, he can't save you because he's not saved himself. And after Adam fell, he couldn't save himself from Eve either. One of his first kids killed the other one. Cain kills Abel. It didn't go very far. The effect of the female on all of the human race. You had one survivor, and why did Cain kill Abel? Because he was better than his brother. He was brighter. He killed him. That's as simple as that. There was no laws then. He just killed him. And so I told you that when you were born, you're different. That's why you're searching. In other words, you're not completely rotten all the way through like all the other acting psychopaths and psychotics. See? You are not happy with your way of life. You're not happy with what you are. You really want to find, that's why you're sitting here, and that's why you've come all the way up here. So I should talk to you this way. Your mother may never be saved, but she might be. And the only person that can help her make that possible is you, because you don't know anyone knows more than I do about this subject, if I can brag a little bit. And when I finish with you, there won't be anybody you know around you, not for miles and miles around, that knows any more about it than you do. Means not only that you know more about it, means you are what you know about. Your nature will have changed. It doesn't serve mother anymore. You will not serve your mother anymore, and you're not going to care about what she thinks. And that is, but that caring what she thinks is a perversion of natural kindness. You don't really want to hurt people unnecessarily, do you?
No, I don't.
Of
I mean,
course.
I saw a movie last night for the first time, Passion of Christ. Here, it was great. And, I mean, you could see Jesus playing with his mother, you know? But I can't do that.
No, but very few mothers you can do that with.
Yeah, but she, yeah.
That's why the word mother is used in negative terms. That's some mother.
Yeah.
See, there are very few mothers you can remain bonded to. Every father has to. Paul says it's better for a man not to be married, and for a man to be married to act as though he weren't. But nevertheless, it's good to be married because it's better to be married than burn. But you're going to burn anyway when you're married. Because what you get into, you've got to get out of. And you want to get out of it as quickly as possible, unless you tarry too long because you're enjoying it too much. See? So, I don't mean to be rude or anything, because the world is full of breeders, and so we'll have plenty of people. I'll have plenty of people to talk to. No, I'm coming back to you now, because sometimes I think you're not completely following me. But I want you, if you're thinking ahead of me, please don't. If you're thinking of the next question, please don't. Just open your ears and let it go through one ear and come out the other to see what sticks. Now, let's talk about, again, a thoughtful, gracious person does not want to hurt anyone. I don't. I'm not going to hurt your feelings purposely. I will hurt your feelings by telling you the truth, because only the truth will set you free, and it's not and the truth is painful. And I know the truth is painful, but I know it's a good pain, so I don't lose any sleep over it. And so you need to know the truth, that you need to oppose your mother in a right way. Jesus opposed the Sanhedrin and the scribes, the Pharisees, and all of Rome, the Roman Empire. He just put himself out there and made a contest. You can beat me to the death, but I won't hate you. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. You can understand that your mother wasn't born. She was born into this impoverished state. There was no men. She married a man that wasn't a man. She married a man that fed himself to her. And you must feed yourself to her too. She's hungry, because when a man falls from God, when he falls from temptation, the victim falls one way, to the bully. You have to feed yourself to the bully in order to get a sense of worth, which is worthless, but you're addicted to it. It's all you got. So you have to keep feeding yourself to somebody. Well, maybe it is not a man, maybe it's another woman, like your mother. You can't you escape from one mother, you get another one. One that seems kindly in the surface, but is the same under the surface when you get to know them. Is that correct? See, you nod your head. See, so that's what lesbianism is all about. Running from one mother to another, because you can't stand men. So you're looking for the masculine quality of one, which is authority. But this authority, it seems to love you, it's got another side. You start to please it, and pretty soon, what have you got? Tyrant. Is that correct? Yes, of course. Now, we're untangling this mystery. Now let's talk to you about you want to be free. Since you came up all the way to Los Angeles, let's focus on that. Can you see that you're feeding yourself to your mom? And that you're living on her approval? Yeah, I am. And you can't stand the disapproval, and you can't stand up because you don't have the strength. Where do you get the strength to stand up to the person you gave all the strength to? If you fight a war and you don't have enough guns and tanks and planes, the enemy will come and take you over and take all your guns and tanks and planes and then leave you with nothing, and you can't fight. If you keep on giving all your strength up to your mother or whoever it is that replaces your mother, what do you have to fight with? All you can do is appease. And you're conditioned to appease. And then you resent yourself, you resent her secretly. It's a secret resentment you feel that turns into a strange love, a strange compulsion to appease and appease and appease. There's millions of Americans who appease bullies, and they think they love the bully. The bigger the bully, so if Saddam Hussein is the bully, they're going to see him as something greater they can give their love to, as loyalty to, as Americans. They'd welcome him and love him and see George Bush as a terrorist because his presence frightens them, just like the presence frightened you when you came to the ranch. You felt like you want to run away. My presence frightens you. You understand that now? Now I want your presence to frighten your mother. You need to find the inner presence that will give you back your power. And with
something that won't let me.
No, something we don't care. We don't. You see, again, you're giving into.
I'm at the point, Roy, where it's like I'm starting. It's like I want to do the right thing, okay, and I want to be in God's light all the time. I want to do the right thing.
And what are you going to do for it?
And what am I going to do for it?
Mm-hmm. Nothing. There's nothing you can do for it.
There's nothing I could do for it. I don't even deserve it, but I'm grateful.
You're not grateful because you haven't got it yet.
Well, no, I guess no, but I want it.
I know, but you're all tangled up with your words.
Yeah, I am, because I don't know how to.
You see, when you're just frothing in every direction, and you're not listening.
Okay.
I don't mean to be rude, but.
All right.
See, because all you have to do is to realize that you have no power and not resent knowing it. So you have a spirit of doubt in you. And that's the companion of people, those who have reduced you to that state, so that the more you love your mother, the more you give into your mother and people like her, the more they put the spirit of doubt that there's God, and more of them believe that you have to please that other person because that's the only God you'll ever know, all the way to your grave. And when that person dies, you'll be in the grave with them, mentally. A lot of people, when their husband dies or their wife dies, they want to die as well. Because they feel barren, they feel pain, because they've always had that person with them who helped them feel their worth in a worthless way. And when they die, they get disappointed. They start to hate the God that died. Because there's a strange phenomena going on with the victim who is attached to a person who has given up the energy to create something that justifies them. always saves them, always saving them, always saving them, which is really a godlike role. God is always saving us. He's always giving us life force in obedience to all the things we suffer. It's a continuous love forever. Whatever trials and tribulations we go through strengthens our bond with Him, and He's always giving us the strength to bear up under it if we have the courage. If we have the courage not to worry about our miserable body, but to sacrifice that if necessary for what's right. Just like Jesus did. See? He knew there was something greater than himself. It just the body was just a machine. It was the moon rover on another planet. And he was the operator from Houston Central, Command Central. He's subjective to his own body. His body is not him. But when you fall from grace, you fall into your body. And then you use the emotions of your body. They need to be aroused because you can't arouse them yourself. It's the seducer that has the power to arouse your emotions. But then he acts through you. He lives through you. He or she lives through you. And so your emotions are aroused, otherwise you feel like you're dead. But when they are aroused, you are dead. Everything I'm saying is just words, noises coming out of this old body of mine. But I'm saying to you, you have to look at your mother differently. She is a victim, creating a victim. She can't help. She's not an original psychopath. She wasn't born that way. She was born a baby, and she went through something similar to what you're going through. And she is not a victim, but she was a victim, but she's creating now a victim of her own. She's doing unto others what was done unto you. She didn't mind having children because she needed to feed. And you want a baby because you want to feed. And that's the real reason. You want to love that baby. And you want that baby to life force. You're a feeder. And you can't help yourself. You can't help being like your mother. So God help the baby. God help your 9-year-old. God help that, because sooner or later that baby is going to recognize that you're loving that child to death. You may not be cruel, but I can tell you, as she starts to get to the point of independence, teenager, she's going to start to want to be free from you. And that's when your problems will start to surface. She finds she may not be able to. And then she has to hate you in order to get away from you, but that bonds her more closely to you, etc., etc. Then she runs to the poisonous toxic culture and gives herself to the toxic culture because she'd rather have the toxic people control her than you. At least she's free from you, but she's a slave to them. That's what you did. You don't have a baby to love. And I don't see you arguing with me. Because you don't know what love is. You can't be free from your mother. That baby can't be free from you. You got no freedom to share. Have you? It's awful quiet here today. Just think about that now. I want to drill a hole in your head. But
it seems like that.
It does, because it's painful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
It's very painful.
It's the way
How many
we've all lived.
people felt pain?
I feel sadness.
You felt sadness?
I feel warmer.
You feel warmth. You know why?
Thank
Because you understood it and you welcomed it.
Thank you.
You've been through your pain already. So you actually wanted to see the whole dynamic, because you can see it, that you're part of that.
Yes.
You're a sort of mild-mannered person.
Mhm.
Too mild-mannered. Am I right?
Yes, that's
That's it.
absolutely.
And that's so therefore, even though you're a sweet and wonderful, loving guy, and you're honest, and you could sleep at my house any day, although there's no room. But the point is, it's just making a point.
Yes.
So I do respect that you are a decent person. The trouble is, you're too weak. And you see, and that weakness makes you, causes people to take advantage of you. Because you're sending out signals, even just the way you walk.
Yes.
See what I mean? I can spot it. The predator can spot it. The woman that you might want to love she certainly will spot that.
Yes. That's one of the things I realized as you were speaking, that just what you said, that a woman would only come to me because of my weakness.
That's right. Only because a strong woman, a decent woman, as decent as you are inside, but she would only see your outside. Yeah. See, so therefore she said, I want him. My daughter had a nose for weak guys. If it wasn't for David, my son-in-law, said, he has his weaknesses, but he's a really good soul. And actually, I see him take correction from her, which is quite commendable for a man to take correction from a woman. But, if he says, you're right, I see that. Because that's the nature he was drawn. They kind of met with, him being drawn to me by a radio program like 20 years ago, So, but they courted for like 7 years and lived a clean life. And while she made up her mind, but he waited. And it takes a certain strength, see? So, and that's the proper thing to do, actually. And, where was I now? We're talking about you, wasn't I?
Yes.
Yeah, that's weakness. So you can't get married.
Right.
You can't get married because you'll draw the one that is either weaker than you and you'll be a bully, or stronger than you and you should be the bully. And we won't be able to help feeding yourself unless you risked it and you took the plunge and dealt with whatever you had to deal with, because the relationship, a man, generally speaking, not always, Paul didn't get married and advised against it wherever possible. But generally speaking, how I discovered it, I took the plunge, and there was something about Anne that I guess reminded me of my mother, so to speak. I know that's exactly, without knowing all these things, without having to explain it to you, but I had to deal with her, and she actually was like her. Bright and sparkly, but very resistant to correction. See, because I remember that about my own mother. She wasn't a manipulator, but she couldn't help creating. She couldn't. How can I put it this way? Somehow I was protected against the manipulation which she didn't know she was doing. My brother, he was infected by her. And I never noticed. I wasn't that conscious of her infection, only that I noticed that she was kind of dull and that she couldn't hear what I was saying to her. She had terrible migraines and she had lots of repressed resentment and lots of sorrow, but she was decent on the surface. But apparently my brother saw something different, because he picked a woman just like his mother and catered to her until she went mad. See? So, and I warned him about that. I said, your wife's going mad. And is destroying these own, and that woman had 2 sons, and one was rebel like me, and one is a conformist like my brother, who became a rabbi, but I thought he was going to become a homosexual, but it got worse.
Yeah.
Oh, it got worse.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Because he was just an angry guy. He's just an angry guy as a rabbi. He's taken on the whole idea of being religious. When my brother got religion from his wife. And so that's how he got a sense of worth. His wife worship. She come from a very religious family. So he had a sense of worth from her, which is worthless. And he is not a whole happy camper. He's very angry and mean-spirited. And so one survived it. One of my grandson, is it grandson? Nephews. He survived it. He's a free spirit like me. The other one is like my brother. He became conformist. See. I could have been a rebel, but I somehow escaped being a rebel. I'm a rebel. I'm a creative rebel, not a destructive rebel. The destructive rebel tears everything down. That's what the left does. They're all destructive rebels. See, they're rebels, but they're destructive rebels. They have not. You see, the left doesn't have anything creative. Have you noticed it? They want to tear down everything. Everything that's like a family. Everything that's like the father they hated, the man they hated, who disappointed them, tearing everything down. No, I'm a creative rebel. I am tearing down, but not violently. I'm bearing witness to the truth that's in your hearts so that I can help awaken, but not implant, the truth in you. But the homosexuals, or the bullies, or the perverts of the world, they can only reproduce themselves in other words, they have to reproduce themselves in their own children. Homosexuals do it they do it to each other. Even if it's just limited to them, one has reproduced himself in the other. See? It helped to create another one and perfected the homosexual perversion, perfected it, while perfecting his own power. But that's why homosexuals, they fight like husband and wife. And that's why when they're not happy with each other, they go on to be, when they're afraid of a relationship, they abuse children. They have to replicate themselves. They've got to replicate. But they're replicating perversion. They're replicating the sin self. They have to do that. They're compelled. Every person's it's their unholy grail. So, young lady, are you all right? How are you doing?
Fine.
Are you suffering a little emotional eruption here?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Sure?
Yep.
You got anything you want to say to me? Do you see about your child? Do you see the possibility that might be so? So you really, if you want to help you really love your daughter?
Yeah, I do.
Well, then you have to learn to not love your mother. You do not owe her anything. You don't owe her your life force, because if you do, she's in you and you're in your daughter. Isn't that right, Wendy? Wendy's gone through that. I'm just helping her to recover, and she's 40 years old. She's more than that. She didn't complain,
It was 40 years of that.
Pardon?
40 years of what she's.
Yes. No, look. What's your first name?
Anna Maria.
Anna Maria. Anna Maria, I know this is tough and painful, but I've got to help to tear you away, encourage you that you do not owe allegiance to your mother. You have to love what's right first. Then you can love her, love the hell out of her. See, then you can stand up and say, Mother, I'm sorry, but I've hated you all my life, and I'm not going to give my life to you anymore. If you want to throw a fit, go ahead. That's the attitude. Can you do that now? Can you look her straight in the eye, calm as a cucumber, and say, I've hated you. That's been my weakness. And then I felt guilty, and I've been serving you ever since to avoid the guilt, and I've been becoming more guilty. I've become like you, Mother. But I needed a victim of my own. That's why I didn't want to get married. I was afraid of men. I just didn't want to reproduce this marriage, so I had myself artificially inseminated so I can have a kid. But you had a kid for the wrong reasons. But something good can come from it. You can change it to the right reason. You can switch. It's not all hopeless. Everything bad that happens for good, that those that love the Lord, isn't that what the scripture says? Mm-hmm. Everything works together. So here you are, you come home a different person. You can have a nice talk with his daughter. I'm sure she's troubled in some way.
She even likes listening to you.
Ah, what a nice thing. What a beautiful thing is about to happen. A beautiful relationship between mother and daughter, a mother who's become a real mother because you love what's right. And you're not going to suck on your daughter anymore.
I don't want it.
You're not going to love her in a way that she loves you back. And get frustrated because she doesn't. You see how that works?
Yeah, I want her to be free.
Look at me, Anna Maria. She will be. No, let the pain go away now.
Right.
I'm not here to criticize you. I'm not here to degrade you like your parents. It feels painful, I know. But it's not the degrading pain. It's a redeeming pain. See the difference?
Mm-hmm.
You're not afraid of me anymore? No. Okay.
Roy, you know I've been going through that with my father too, and I told you I stood up to him and talked to him and stuff, and then I saw myself feeling weak before him again.
Yes.
But he just had a heart bypass yesterday, the day before, and I couldn't talk to him when I found out he was going in for a heart bypass.
Yeah.
I couldn't talk to him
Why?
because I was afraid
That
to
you
be
might upset
fake.
him?
I was afraid to be fake. I knew I would be fake and say, "Oh, I hope you're gonna." You know, I just couldn't stand to be fake again.
Well, why
And I
can't-
didn't know what to say to him. I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel anything.
Well, that's perfect.
I felt guilty for that.
No. You feel guilty not for being perfect. You feel guilty for not being fake.
I think I feel guilty because
No, you
I'm
feel-
still angry with him.
No, you feel guilty for not being fake.
Really?
That's beside the point. Because when you're fake, then you kiss up to him, and he looks at you with whatever love that you.
I didn't know
tidbit
how
of-
to quit doing that process. I saw myself doing this process with him, and you know, I was good. I stood up to him, and then he left, and then I was afraid it was starting back up again.
Now listen carefully. If you don't feel anything when your father's dying, remember your father has never been much of a father to you. Am I right? Look at your condition. Part of it is self-induced. You see what I mean? He got you going, and then you got yourself going. You added to it.
Like riding a
Yes.
bike.
Okay.
Never forget it.
Seeking love in all the wrong places and that sort of stuff. And then and transferring your subservience to other persons of disrepute. See, so you got. How long does it take for a person to learn, that there's another kind of love, and the love of the world is an enmity with God? Is that right? Now, didn't Jesus say it? But do you think people understand what that means? I've just explained it to you. The love of the world makes you God's enemy, and that's why you have conscience.
But I
So all
crave
this
it
fake-
to go there.
All this fake stuff you have with your father is fake feelings and the fake, I'm crying because he's dying. Yeah. You're really happy inside he's dying.
That's what my oldest.
You feel
daughter
guilty
said.
about that too.
That's what I admired about my oldest daughter. She said, I forget how she said it, but she can speak her mind and she doesn't feel guilty about it. She knows
Well, she's not.
been.
She's not. Thank God, she's a survivor. See, a survivor's. If you'll be a survivor, it's time for you to detach from your father, but understand when you detached as he starts to die or goes in for death-defying experience. It's know that
Why do I feel like I owe him something? Like you were talking to her about.
you owe
I
him.
feel like
You owe him your life for saving you. If Jesus saves you, wouldn't you owe him your life? But he dies, is resurrected, and you resurrect with him. But if your father dies, or your other person who loves you and you love them and you owe them your life, when they die, you don't resurrect with them. That's the whole idea of the resurrection. That's the whole idea of loving a man like that. He presented himself as a love object that saves you from all the other love objects. Do you understand that? Oh, and I'm Jewish. I don't know what's happened to me.
It did seem like he was trying.
And if
to
it wasn't for a Christian, all the Christians trying to preach to me, all their phoniness, I would have been a Christian a long time ago. See what I mean?
I feel guilty too because I had the same relationship with my children, the fake, and I don't know what to do anymore.
I tell you what, you learn to feel guilty for not being a fake, and wait for the guilt to go away, because the guilt is the pain, is the redeeming pain of conscience. Feeling guilty is what you needed to have felt all of your life. You just couldn't stand your ego couldn't stand the feeling that it was less than it was, because being loving made you more than you thought you were. It took away the pain. When you were involved in loving and being loved, when you were giving yourself to someone, you were losing yourself in that person's affection or brutality. So you can judge them. And judgment is an uprush of feeling. It makes you feel superior to the person that's brutal to you. They didn't appreciate my love. So you try loving again. Well, this time they do love you and appreciate you. You bend over backwards, and maybe they acquiesce and give you a little tidbit, like a little sardine for a sea lion. But you're grateful for it, for a little piece of butter, when you haven't tasted butter in wartime. Everything feels better when you don't have it. You know, a drop of water to a dying man in a desert is like gold. So you're a dying person. You do everything for the feeling you can get, but you have to give more and more for it. And you're guilty of worshipping the wrong God. You got the wrong kind of love, and you owe your life to that person for the sense of worth, which is worthless. Now, so then if it's true you feel guilty for not being fake, good, don't be fake. Quietly feel the guilt. Say, nice seeing you, Dad, hope you okay. Say some words that are not too endearing. That's right, you mutter a few words, but don't make over it. Cry, whatever it is, which is it's just actually, you have to put on the performance.
Oh, that's a relief.
You feel better now?
That's a relief.
So it's okay not to feel it.
I didn't realize I felt like I owed him.
Well, you do owe him. You owe the person that saves you.
Right.
It's true, but he's not your savior.
And that's why you feel guilty.
That's why you feel guilty. You got the wrong savior. He's saving you from being saved. You want to be saved? You want to feel guilt. Don't run away from the guilt. How simple can it get?
Really?
Bear the pain of guilt until it gets worse. And still don't resent knowing it. And all of a sudden, it'll go away. And you feel different. You understand, and I'll finish my discussion with you. There are two forces, two pressures at work. Your pressure of your conscience. Conscience is a pressure. That's how it gets into you. Conscience is a pressure. Your mother is a pressure, or your father is a pressure. The wickedness is a pressure. Who wants to be your God pressures you to be that God, for you to submit to it. If you do not have an inclination, an allegiance for what's right in your heart, if you don't have that allegiance of love, which most people don't when they're born, because they don't understand. They're too young to understand the forces arrayed against them. So it's understandable that we're going to get lost for a while. Okay? But the minute you respond to the pressure, the nature of the person that is equivalent to the pride you're born with gets inside you and reinforces the pride. You're born with a proclivity, with pride, a prideful proclivity. You're born a woman. You're born subject to subservience to the woman, emotionally bonded. So's your father, for that matter. That's why he can't save you. So you get your mother's nature. See, basically. Or in rebellion, you get your father's, which is even worse. But you're not supposed to get your father's wimpy nature or his bully nature or whatever it is. That's not neither one of them. Neither one of them's right. You can't make a right decision when you react wrong. See? Because you're obedient.
What is the pressure inside?
The pressure inside is what you have to sit still for. Because you escape from one pressure into another. So if you want to escape your conscience and want to preserve your pride, you will seek your emotions aroused so you can escape into it and therefore run away from seeing how wrong you are into feeling how right you are, which is even wronger. Vicious cycle. So if you want to escape the system, you have to rise above that system and come towards your conscience. And the only way you can do that is to realize the truth of what I'm telling you. All I'm telling you is what I'm the prosecuting attorney for your dark side. Your dark side's listening.
I know
It doesn't like me. It doesn't like me.
know.
It doesn't like me, but it can't do anything.
Well, it makes me not hear everything you're saying.
But you're still hearing it anyway. You're still getting some of it, aren't you? Little bits and pieces. Enough to make you cry here or there. Mm-hmm. But you can hear this. Don't wallow in your emotions. Learn to be quiet so you don't feel anything. You don't feel bad, you don't feel good. But then you will feel conscience. When the conscience approaches, don't run. Don't panic. It's almost like something awful is about to happen. But it's not. Something good is about to happen. It's just the opposite. Because when you thought something good was happening, something awful was happening, but you couldn't see it. See that? Because you ran away from it again and again. Got it?
You still haven't explained that pressure from inside.
Well,
Is that the
because
good
the
one? Or it
no, the
doesn't
pressure-
feel like the good one. It feels like the bad one.
The pressure is the good one. Your conscience. If you feel conscience, you feel bad when you.
But it's inside of me. It's not in my
It's
intuitive spot.
No,
it's in my
it's in your solar
body.
plexus.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's where you feel. That's where you feel it. That's where you feel fear. Your brain doesn't have any feeling. That group of nerves in your solar plexus, I don't know what they call it, but that's where you feel what's going on up here. So if people put pressure on you and you feel a little anxiety here but a fear in your solar plexus, you feel like pull in your solar plexus, you watch your solar plexus and you just watch the anxiety in your head, you see? And you know just to watch the fear until it goes away, or anger until it goes away, resentment, just watch it, don't wallow in it. And don't make any decisions until that's all gone. Simple. And when it's gone, then you can make a decision. No, I don't think I'll do that. Yes, I will, and you'll be okay. You don't want feelings to make decisions. If you're sick, what would you rather have? The no feeling of being well, or not being well and feeling that you're well? Thank you. I'll take my bow now.
Would you like applause with that?
Yeah, I think I'll take some applause for my ego. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Masters, I keep meeting people that want to destroy us. Okay.
Wait. The lecture's over now.
Oh, it is.
And the truth of the matter is, suffering does not go away. You just deal with it differently. Suffering, as a matter of fact, suffering gets worse. No, but your enemies will be offended. Your friends will run from you. But there's a good side. You draw new types of people. Like me, for example.
I had a conversation with him earlier. He was out smoking a cigarette. And
Smoking a cigarette
and
before
he
the
told me
lecture?
he told me that he's attracted to these people that try to destroy him.
Well, that's right. Well, that's because he has not made the transition yet. And he doesn't know how to deal with it. And he resents it. And he doesn't know how to deal with it. And he smokes a cigarette after to calm his nerves. Or before he goes into something, into a meeting or something where it requires a little courage, he smokes a cigarette before and after. Isn't that right?
Yes.
One to give you courage and one to make you feel better when you didn't use it.
Good.
You feel better now?
Yes, I do.
Feel a little freer?
I do.
You go home and have a nice chat with your daughter and tell her you give her my love. Okay?
Oh.
And I mean that.
Bring her
Because
with
you have
next
you,
time.
you have a love for me, then you'll have a love for her.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I'll be the dad you didn't have.
All right.
Sorry I can't bounce you on my knee.
Too heavy.
But and then leave your mother alone. You got your own house?
I just bought a house in Reno.
Good.
Yeah,
Well, that's nice. That sounds like you must be doing good.
trying.
Good. So you have a decent life. Have a nice talk with your daughter, and discuss things which are meaningful, and enjoy your life together. And don't have to pray on her. She doesn't have to love you. You just have to love her in a way that she doesn't obligate you to. You don't obligate her to love you.
Right.
Don't treat her too well,
Right.
but just be thoughtful.
Right.
See? And she'll sense the difference right away, and she'll be free. And then you'll love each other without sucking on each other.
Right.
And then leave your mother alone. Leave that family behind. And when you don't need her anymore, when you don't think about her anymore at all, and you can think of her without having a feeling, oh, I gotta go see her. Dismiss that and don't go see her. When that's gone away, then you can pick up the phone and say, hi Mom, how you doing? And then she starts the little game again and say, no, knock it off. Or you argue with her. You argue with her intelligently. I'm sorry, but blah, 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 blah. That's my granddaughter. She comes back and tells me the stories that she deals with her mother. Mother? Oh, yes, Mother. All right. And but Mother, blah, 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 blah. And she corners that mother. She corners her beautifully. She remembers the conversations, which is something I can't do. I don't remember a word I said, actually. So you hope it was all right, was it?
Very good.
Very good.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go now and go meet my new computer.
Thank you.